All right, let's get a check-in over on the box score. By the way, Detroit, they have an MLB best 33-13 record since August 11th. They're 9-1, and their last 10 road games allowed 2 runs in back-to-back postseason games for the first time since the 2012 World Series. So the Tigers sweeping the Astros. They're going to advance. Here's the final score, 5-2, going to the ALDS, facing the Guardians. Game 1 is going to be on Saturday. Let's welcome in our MLB analyst, Matt Snyder, here to talk about it because we have our first team that is going through advancing. The Tigers sweep the Astros. Again, they're going to face a rested Guardians team in the ALDS. But what were your biggest takeaways? I don't know what it is about these wild card games, Matt, where the 8th inning, things are just getting crazy. Or just like to get into the wild card round, like in the Mets-Braves, we saw like 10 runs in the 8th. This was 4, so not quite 10, but still, it's like the 8th inning is when things all get interesting here.
So when you ask what's my reaction, I have about 20 of them, so I'll try to compose myself here. Number one, that was an unbelievable series, very entertaining, especially with the Astros threatening in the 9th inning in game 1 and Jason Hayward hitting that line drive that looked like it might clear the bases and give the Astros a walk-off win. And they just seemed like one of those villains that never dies in a horror movie. Last night, I likened them to Michael Myers because they get to the ALCS every single year. In fact, the last time they weren't in the ALCS was 2016 when Coco Crisp and BJ Upton were both in it. That's how long ago the Astros have been making the ALCSs. And the Tigers, just this upstart group, they were sellers in front of the trade deadline. It looked like they were definitely not going to be a playoff team. They got so hot down the stretch. They have something here with these vibes where they think they're going to come back no matter what. In this game, once the Astros had that rally in the bottom of the 7th and they took the lead, it just felt like, okay, the Astros are going to break it open. Jose Altuve came up with the bases loaded, nobody out, Kyle Tucker on deck. It just looked like, okay, big inning for the Astros here. They're better set up for game 3. The Astros are probably going to survive by the skin of their teeth. But instead, the Tigers had that huge rally, and it's Andy Ibanez with a pinch hit, bases clearing double against Josh Hader, who is paid like one of the best closers in baseball, if not the best closer in baseball. He's been kind of shaky all year, sneakily. He was bad at the start of the year, but he's been inconsistent. So it's kind of indicative of how the Astros season has gone, that he had to be the one on the mound when somebody who's a relative no-name came through to get the job done against him. Kind of fitting, I guess, because the signing has not gone the way that the Astros had hoped it would. But like I said, I've got a lot more thoughts. I don't want to go too crazy with it, but that was an unbelievable series for it only going 2 games.
Yeah, we saw Hader in that video there looking very, very disappointed, of course. And you mentioned there's so many different storylines, so many different reactions, but also a little bit of an AJ Hinch revenge series, revenge game, if you will. So that's also an interesting standpoint, Matt.
Absolutely. I mean, remember, for those who don't remember, AJ Hinch was the Astros manager in 2017 when they won the World Series, in 2019 when they won the pennant and lost in game 7. And it was funny that the Tigers got a foul pole home run in right field today from Parker Meadows. The last time AJ Hinch was in the playoffs, a ball hit off that exact foul pole, and it was Howie Kendrick's game 7 home run to put the Nationals in the lead, and the Astros lost that series. This time around, I think Hinch liked that foul pole home run a lot better. But yeah, it's a very interesting storyline there with Hinch going into Houston. Obviously, the sign stealing scandal, part of the fallout was Hinch being fired from his post with the Astros. He caught on with the Tigers here. He goes into Houston to get the win. Yet another big storyline from a very active series here.
So let's talk about what's next for Houston. And there's obviously a couple different angles here, but Alex Bregman, he's going to be a free agent this offseason, someone who spent his entire career there. Matt, do you think this is the last game as an Astro for Bregman?
Everything we've been hearing is that the Astros are encouraged by the progress that they're having with extension talks, and they hope that they'll be able to retain him. It just seems awfully late. Usually an extension happens during the season, and I couldn't help but think back to the Braves winning the World Series in 2021 and all the talk about Freddie Freeman and how they were confident something would get done, and he ended up signing with the Dodgers while the Braves traded for Matt Olson. Bregman has started to decline a little bit these past couple of years. He's not near what he was in 2018 and 2019. It might be better if the Astros moved on. They've got DeCenzo, who could play third base, one of their top prospects. Probably their very top prospect, actually, an infielder. He's 6'5". He's hit well in AAA. They do need to address first base. They had one of the worst hitting first baseman tandems in baseball this season. They're probably going to need to do something with the rotation because of all those injuries. And Justin Verlander is hitting free agency, and he's probably cooked anyway. So they've got some work to do this offseason. It starts with, are they going to sign Bregman or not? And then they'll go from there.
I want to piggyback off of your Justin Verlander comment there, Matt, because that was, of course, a huge topic of conversation going into this wild card series, that he was left off of the roster there. And maybe at the surface, surprising to some people, but would that have made a difference, do you think, in this outcome if Verlander was on the roster?
Yeah, for me, no. The answer is no to that. I mean, you're always going to start Framber Valdez in game 1, and then he's the one who gave the 3 runs, and they ended up losing that game. The offense didn't do enough in that game, partially because Skubal was on the mound for the Tigers, and he was amazing. Game 2, Hunter Brown gave them pretty much all they could have asked from a starting pitcher. So they weren't going to bring Verlander in relief. He had a really, really bad time this season. When he wasn't injured, he looked cooked. He looks like he's done at age 41. So I don't think he would have helped them in this series. If anything, he might have actively hurt them. They just didn't score enough runs.
And Matt, let's talk again about the Tigers' expectations. Of course, they're moving on, facing the Guardians, a rested Guardians team. And it's always interesting, right, when we talk about baseball postseason, because sometimes the rest doesn't always work to the team's advantage. It feels like once you're hot and you have momentum, we saw that last season, that kind of works in your favor. So how do you think it's going to shake out, at least in game 1 with the Tigers and the Guardians?
I have no doubt that the Tigers believe that it's going to help them, that the Guardians have had to sit around all week and have had to wait until Saturday. The Guardians, I don't think the rest really hurts them. They're so reliant on their bullpen, which is the best in baseball by a mile. And then they've got 4, 5, 6 power arms out there who they're going to need to lean heavily on in the playoffs in order to advance deep into the postseason. So having all those days off, the relievers get to rest their arms. They play Saturday, and then they rest again until Monday. They'll be able to pretty much empty their bullpen if they want on Saturday. Then everybody will be back for Monday. I actually think that could work to the Guardians' advantage. I don't know about them offensively, but they didn't have one of the better offenses coming into the postseason anyway. So I don't think that this really hurts the Guardians as much as many people might think that it hurts them. It enables them to set everything up with the bullpen. We'll see. We've had 2 years of samples of the bye teams, and I know that some high-profile teams have had byes and have lost, but these Astros that we've just been talking about, in 2022, they were really hot going into the playoffs. Then they sat around for 5 days, and then they went 7-0 on the AL side in the playoffs and to advance to the World Series. So it's not like, oh, they forgot how to play baseball in those 5 days off. So I don't think it's as big of a deal as we have thought in years past.
Yeah, I think Braves fans and Dodgers fans are a little bit scarred by all the rest that we've seen in the past. Matt Snyder, we certainly appreciate it joining us here on HQ as we were talking about the Tigers sweeping the Astros and advancing to the ALDS for the first time since 2014. Tigers were up 1-0 early on, and then we had a tie ball game 2-2 at the top of the 8th, and then we had Ibanez hits a triple, put the Tigers up 5-2, and they go on to win it. Again, they're going to face a Guardians team. Game 1 is going to be on Saturday.